I have a guest, and this is Shane from Shane and Mika. That's the name of the website. That's the name of your channel, right?
Yeah.
Shane and Mika?
Micah.
Micah.
But whatever.
Who's Micah? Who is Micah? Because I haven't seen her before.
Micah's a book of the Bible.
Oh. We both became friends because we both really like talking about not even gay stuff necessarily, but just like racial stuff. So I guess like I've been talking about race a lot in my other videos, and I thought it'd be interesting to bring someone that, if you don't mind me saying, is part of a people that is a lot more disenfranchised than Asians are.
I am Native American of the Sioux tribe, which is located in the North Dakota, South Dakota territory.
And do you disagree with the fact that your people are more disenfranchised than mine are?
See, that's a thing about like racial identity politics that I've wrestled with for a long time, is because I've seen a lot of conversations between people of color that could have been really, really productive and helpful turn into like oppression Olympics. And like competing with one another. Okay, well, let me prove to you how much more disenfranchised I am than you.
Yeah.
And that's just not helpful. I think that like a general comparison between people can be helpful at times. I don't know, lighter skinned Native Americans like myself probably don't have to fear the police as much as most black people do in the country.
Yes.
Like I think that's a helpful general comparison between
Right. I just thought that, and I thought that you would think that just because, like, unfortunately, like, our socioeconomic statuses are like just statistically higher.
That's very true.
So I win. I'm just kidding.
So I win, bitch.
I wanted to make a video for people that might be younger and that might not have the exact language of talking about race and gender, that are interested in it, though. And so I thought we'd start with cultural appropriation because we love talking about cultural appropriation. What's your definition of cultural appropriation?
I have tried for years to define cultural appropriation. I would describe it as like generally taking things, like whether they be objects or practices or foods or like ceremonies, whatever it is, that is a meaningful part of a specific culture, and taking it out of that cultural context and misusing it or reusing it with a different significance.
That's probably a better definition than I would give. It's taking something from a culture that is not your own, that is not part of who you are, and so that's not something that you grew up with, and like that's cultural appropriation on its most basic level. I learned that from Adrienne Keene, who was on BuzzFeed's podcast. Taking something from someone else's culture is not necessarily wrong, but if it's out of context, it can be very wrong. This, like, just a few hours ago we did yoga together, and yoga is from it's from a specific culture, but like it's meant to be shared with people to some degree. Henna is from India, but it's meant to be shared to some degree. Religious things like Indian garbs and feathers are not supposed to be shared with people.
Yeah, that like has a particular significance around it that is best practiced by the people of the culture.
And one other great point that Adrienne Keene said that I didn't have the capacity to come up with myself until then was that realizing that you cannot separate what you are appropriating with the systems of power that are in place.
Yeah.
Like there are very strong racial implications, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are very strong racial implications when someone wears a sexy geisha costume or a sexy Native American costume. Like not simply the fact that you don't understand my culture, but it's the fact that like you are contributing to the erasure of my people.
I guess just speaking as a Native American, I see a lot of racist Indian costumes. I think an important thing to understand about that is that if you are a white person and you put on an Indian costume, you can't like ignore the fact that you are a white person doing that and that it is an Indian costume that's referencing an actual people group. Like you're not just a person putting on a costume, you are a white person or whatever kind of person you are putting on a costume that references an entire people group. Like there is significance there in like the identity of the person who's wearing the costume and the identity that's being referenced, and you can't like Can't get away from that.
There's just so many layers about why it's wrong.
Yeah.
So many layers why it's wrong. Like, just on a humanistic level of how it makes me feel when I see a sexy geisha costume or like a sexy Chinese costume.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so like you don't, so like, first of all, it hurts me that like you think that my culture and that where I come from is something for you to wear and not understand and not take the effort to understand. But it also hurts on another level, it also, people of color, Asians included, even though it's less now, are struggling to be on the media and to represent themselves on media. And for you to wear like something from my culture or from his culture, it's adding, as I said before, adding to the erasure. You're part of like this trend of like, we want the culture and just the looks, but we don't want you, the person, to be there.
A response I've heard oftentimes is like, okay, so if I take this seriously and I really try to move forward with not culturally appropriating, that means I can't do anything that isn't from my culture. And I don't think that's true, because I think that we can actually have the opposite effect of like working against the erasure of cultures if we interact with other cultures well.
In an understanding way.
Yeah. If you actually get to know Native American people and have a working relationship with the tribe and start to engage with their spiritual practices and like every step of the way are asking for permission and are waiting to be invited and like build a really solid relationship, then I think it's possible that you'll be permitted or invited at some point to put on some authentic regalia, and then you're looking like a real native. Every step of the way when you're engaging with something that comes from a culture that is not your own, I think it's important to ask, what is my relationship to these people?
How would you explain the difference between intention and effect? You know, like how a lot of people that do this cultural appropriation might not be intending to do it, and although there are some people that are very receptive to people being offended, there are some people that are saying, well, if I'm not trying to hurt you, then what's the problem?
I would describe intention versus effect as the Redskins sport mascot, where for many people, this is a celebrated mascot just because it's a part of like a very old tradition and there's a culture around it and like there's a lot of camaraderie.
A white culture around it.
There's a white culture around it. And a lot of camaraderie and just like strong identification with this team. And those are all like perfectly good intentions. You love your sports team, good for you. The effect of it is that it is like a constant reminder to Native people that nobody gives a shit about us, and like for some reason it's okay to name a team after a dictionary-defined racial slur.
Part of being a privileged person is not realizing that you have privilege.
Yeah, which like, I don't know, I like to give privileged people a break and just be like, you know, it's okay to have blind spots as long as you like work on it.
It's wonderful if you're like, I understand where you're coming from, but it's not okay if you go, I understand, but this is why what I'm doing is okay.
Yeah. I, on multiple occasions, have had white folks approach me and be like, after hearing you talk about your culture and like cultural appropriation, I realized that I have a dream catcher hung up in my room, and I never even thought twice about it. It was just a decoration to me. Do you think I should take it down? So for, like in that example, I think that, like that, I feel very okay offering like a lot of grace to that person because you weren't trying to do anything. And like, it was...
and they're taking your feelings into account.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was no intent to disenfranchise or be hurtful. Also, intend to avoid being hurtful.
Right.
Like, your intention should also be to like intentionally avoid fucking up.
Right. Having anxiety about cultural appropriation is very healthy. It means that you're trying to not fuck up, like you said.
Yeah. How to take care and show love to the folks of color around you.
I'm just so baffled that there are like still people that don't even understand that. That like even from a very basic like human level of understanding the people that are just not like you.
You will build many more and much better relationships if your primary focus isn't to defend yourself and is instead on like bettering the relationship and learning how to serve and love and honor people better.
Right, like waiting for that first human response to pass a little bit and like trying to figure out for yourself how do you feel after that natural response. What's your response to people that make comments that are like, oh well then like why is it offensive to dress as a cowboy or a Viking?
This is the reverse racism argument. So if my friend Christopher here, someone in America that he is, dresses as a cowboy for Halloween. That is somebody of one race putting on a costume that is a caricature of another culture. The difference there between that and like a white person putting on a Native American costume is that Christopher is not going to do any damage whatsoever wearing a cowboy costume, because cowboys have not been systematically disenfranchised and slaughtered and genocided against. Genocided is a word, by the government. So like,
thank you so much for watching, and this was great. I love talking about this. We're probably going to do this many more times because I love doing this. I really hope that maybe if any of you are watching this and you see something that makes you uncomfortable, you maybe have like more rhetoric in your arsenal to argue against it.
I think our job is to walk a very narrow line of like feeling angry and not like invalidating ourselves and like holding on to that anger and that hurt or like whatever emotion it is, while also having patience and empathy for the people who are hurting you, because so often, disappointingly, sadly, it's the person who's being hurt who has to teach, which is frustrating, but it's the only way we make progress.
Yes, like don't ever let anybody that doesn't understand you explain to you what it means to be you, in any form of what you could mean.
You do you. If you're a genderqueer lamppost, you'd be a genderqueer.
You'd be a genderqueer lamppost.